Flannery O'Connor's A View of the Woods by Lainey, England, for her multimodal and digital composition class. Flannery O'Connor is a Gothic American novelist who is based out of Georgia. She is most known for her 32 short stories and also her two novels. Over spring break, I decided to read her complete stories, and this is where I found A View of the Woods. The character Mary reminded me a lot of Atticus from To Kill a Mockingbird and Frankie from Carson McClure's A Member of the Wedding, and the fact that both of these characters are both rough and hardcore and very unladylike for the time. A View of the Woods begins with the audience being introduced to Mary Fortune and her grandfather. We learn that Mary Fortune was named after her grandfather, and she also looks just like him. Not many people were happy about this besides her grandfather, and they were inseparable all throughout leading up to the beginning of the book. The story begins with Mary and her grandfather watching the diggers dig up all the dirt on the tractor. The reader is able to hear the grandfather's thoughts throughout the first couple of pages and learns that he is not fond of Mary's father, Mr. Pitts. We also learn that there is a family feud between the way that Mr. Pitts disciplines his children. The Pitts house is located on a farm that the grandfather gave to them when Mr. Pitts married his daughter, Mary's mother. We also learn that it is on a big farm that the grandfather has sold many pieces of land to create money for the family. Even though the grandfather and Mary's father do not get along, this does not change the relationship Mary and her grandfather have. The relationship is very close and they do almost everything together, whether that be farming or running errands. That relationship takes a turn when the grandfather casually mentions that he would like to sell the front yard to create a gas station. He states to Mary that this would be so convenient and that this is something that they have to do. Mary becomes very upset, stating that she'll not be able to see the woods and that that's their front yard where they play. It comes up over dinner and Mary is still very upset, and the grandfather just writes this off to her throwing a child tantrum, stating that she thinks that she will be just back to normal as soon as he goes to bed. The grandfather wakes up in the morning and realizes that Mary is not beside his bed waiting for him to wake up, as she has been every other morning since she was able to walk. He tries to go talk to her and she is very put off, saying that he just cannot sell the lawn because she will not be able to see the woods across from her house. To try to rekindle their relationship, the grandfather takes her on a ride to the hardware store. When then she finds out that he is actually taking her to sell the land, she throws a fit and even shoots a gun in the air. This makes the grandfather really enraged, acting that he's never seen her act in such a way. After Mary fires the gun, she runs away, and her grandfather goes to find her. He finds her in the woods crying, and he asks what's wrong, and she states that she just doesn't want him to sell the woods. She becomes very upset, saying this is not a way that a Fortune acts, and only a way that a Pitts acts, which makes her get very defensive over her father, and they begin to exchange words. He gives her a spanking, which is something that he has never done before, making her even more upset than she already was. And after he gives her a spanking, she falls back and hits her head on the rock. He goes over to make sure she's okay, and there her body is lying lifeless. In the matter of one paragraph, this happens, and then the end of the book ends with the grandfather driving off into the lake, which we assume that means that he dies too. Even though the short story is only 20 pages, we learn a lot about the relationship between Mary and the grandfather. The most interesting thing to me is the fact that the story ends in just 2 paragraphs. In the last page, we see Mary shoot a gun. We see them get into this altercation that includes them yelling at each other, which has pretty much never been done before. we see him discipline her, which has also never been done before, and then we see both of them die. I think that Flannery O'Connor meant this to be a whirlwind, and it was very interesting to see the relationship build and then end in these short pages of this short story. Thank you for listening, and I hope this makes you want to read A View of the Lake.